you. Okay. Let's do this.
Okasa vandami bhante, sabang aparadang kamatame bhante, maya katang punyang samina anumoditabam, samina makkatang punyang mayhang databam, sadhu sadhu anumodami, okasa karunyang katva, Pambajang deta me bhante.
Okay, at this point, Anagarika Nick is requesting what we call the Pūjā, or the Samanera ordination. The Pūjā is the going forth, and so this is a tray with the sitting cloth, angsa. It's got the robe and the sabang, a nice hand-sewn sabang, belt, these basic requisites of a samanera, of a novice. And I've checked it, it's all good, it's all here. So at this point I hand it back to him.
Ahang bhante, pambajang yachami, Dutiyampi ahang bhante, pambajang yachami, tatiyampi ahang bhante, pambajang yachami, sabbadukkha nissarana nibbana satchikaranataya, imang kasavang gahetva, pambajetamang bhante anukampang upadaya, Sabbadukkha nissarana nibbana satchikaranataya imang kasavanga hetva pamba jetamang bhante anukampang upadaya Sabbadukkha nissarana nibbana satchikaranataya imang kasavanga hetva pamba jetamang bhante anukampang upadaya. Sabbadukkha nissarana nibbana satchikaranataya etang kasavang dattva pamba jetamang bhante anukampang upadaya Sabbadukkha nissarana nibbana satchikaranataya etang kasavang dattva pamba jetamang bhante anukampang upadaya Sabbadukkha nissarana nibbana satchikaranataya etang kasavang dattva pamba jetamang bhante anukampang upadaya.
So I just want to read the translation of what Anagarika Nick just chanted, this Sabbadukkha Nissarana Nibbana Satchikaranataya. Nissarana means to escape or get out from. And this the first part of the chant was Sabbadukkha Nissarana Nibbana Satchikaranataya Imang Kasawang Gahetwa Pabajetamang Bhante Anukampang Upadaya. So this is the kasawang, that's the cloth with these robes. Gahetwa, that I'm holding. Please grant me the going forth. And then he hands me the robes, and then he chants the same chant, but instead of gahetwa, it's dattawa, which means having given these robes, may I receive the going forth. And this is, I find this to be a very profound ceremony, and it's a very ancient ceremony, and it's very powerful, very meaningful, and I actually really, this is one of the highlights for me of the monastic life, is seeing going forths, Anagarika, Samanera, and Bhikkhu ordinations. They're very meaningful, and I remember the first time I put on one of these novice robes, I was just trying it on. I was still in Anagarika, but I was just trying on the robe, and Lumpur gave me a robe, and first he gave me there was some sort of, I was choosing robes that were my size, and there were only a few that were my size, and one of them was this golden robe that was offered by the City of 10,000 Buddhas to us. And so I asked Lumpur if I could wear that one, and he said, no, that's far too leonine for you. And so then I chose another one, and but I just remember putting it on, and wow, this is very powerful, and part of a very ancient tradition. And so having given these robes, granting the going forth out of compassion. So and it's also meaningful because having done this training of the Anagarika for a year, just over a year actually, it's nice to go forward a bit. And so this is what I think of as the second gate of ordination. So Anagarika ordination being the first gate, then Pūjā, the going forth, being the second gate, and the Upasampada, the Bhikkhu ordination, being the third gate. And then part of this ceremony as well is the giving of the 5 kammatthana. So before giving that formally, I'll just go into it briefly. We call this the mula kammatthana, or the root meditation object. And it's very interesting that this is what the Buddha decided to give novices as the first kind of mindfulness of the body meditation object. And that's the kesaloma nakadanta tacho, which is the hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, and skin. And we might think that's kind of strange, like why would he give that? Why would he make that like the heart of the novice's ordination, like giving those particular 5 things to think about? And we might think, well, everybody knows what those are, but actually we don't really know them. So we have to look into these things deeply, because the hair of the head, hair of the body, nails and teeth and skin, these are what's visible on a human being. So those are the 5 visible things. And also what we don't know those deeply, and contemplating those 5 things, and when the heart loses its taste and is no longer enamored with these 5 things, then the heart can be at peace finally. So then that's the meaning of samana, is the one who seeks peace. Samanera is like the one who's striving for peace, preparing the mind for deep peace. So deep peace only arises when there's insight into those 5 things, and then the heart letting go of the attachment for these things. So normally what we think of as happiness, is when we get to fulfill our desires and attachments for these different things. But then the deep peace happens when the desire and attachment isn't there, and there's no need for seeking or striving or actually moving out and moving after these things. But one is always at peace in and of oneself. So that's the meaning of these robes, the meaning of those 5 kamatanas, the mula kamatana, the root kamatana. So really that's kind of good enough. I've been reading, on my retreat, I've been reading some Longpo Ban and starting to translate this new book that he gave last time I saw him, and he's talking about, he's all about this root kamatana. Almost every talk he mentions it, and he calls it the machete gata, where it's like the Kesaloma Nakadanta Tacho is a gata that cuts through the defilements, and whenever the heart isn't at peace, or whenever the heart lurches out and tries to go out and leaves its state of peace, then you use this machete gata to cut through it and immediately come back to the state of peace. So it's quite wonderful to think about teachings like that and read teachings like that. And there's a lot of different ways to use these meditation objects, and this is really like the entry point into the mindfulness of the body as well. So whether it's element contemplation, death contemplation, charnel ground practice contemplation, and or just the body in and of itself. There is this body, as it says in the suttas. It's just that simple contemplation. That's what these are pointing toward. So yeah, if you could come up under your haunches, and I'll formally give you that. So if you'll repeat after me in forward and reverse order. Kesa, Loma, Naka, Danta, Tacho, Danta, Naka, Loma, Kesa. If you can come forward, and I'll put the angsa on you. Angsa and a pavillon. And, I'll hand these to you. You can go put the robes on. That's something I wanted to start doing is put the angsa on the candidate before they go out to change into brown. It's something Longpo Liam does during the novice ordinations. He does in Thailand. The Anagarikas in Thailand, they don't have a pavillon though. The pavillon is something that, this kind of quasi-white robe, it was, I believe, came about when the Sangha came to the West, so in England. And in Thailand also you have these, you'll have like quite young novices. Sometimes they call them nen noi, like the young novices, and they'll be Anagarikas for a short period of time first, and they'll just have a white angsa and actually a white sabong, not pants like the Anagarikas have here, but a white sabong. And so they'll actually take their white angsa off during the ceremony, and then Longpo Liam will put the brown angsa on them. But this is live streamed, and there's some guests here, so I told Anagarika Nick we weren't going to have to do that. And so there's two experienced bhikkhus, helping, possibly more even, helping to put, help Nick to put his robes on. Another thing that happens also is you get a Pali name when you take the Pūjā, the going forth. So that'll be revealed at the end of the ceremony, that he will have a new name. I also remember getting my name, Nyaniko. They gave it to me at the end of my going forth ceremony in 2002. And somebody asked me after the ceremony, like, "Oh, do you like your name?" And I said, "I guess I better like it. If I don't like it, I'll suffer." So you get the new name, and that's kind of a lot of things about the Pūjā, about the going forth. It's a new chapter, trying to leave things behind. It can be a new chapter, a new sense of commitment to the practice, to the training. It's also the 10 precepts, so everybody here will be familiar with the 8 precepts. Within the 10 precepts, they, for some reason, they split the 7th precept to refrain from entertainment, beautification, and adornment. That gets split into 2. So one precept is entertainment, another precept is refraining from beautification and adornment. And then the added precept, really the big difference, is the giving up of the use of money. So I believe that in this case, Anagarika Nick has closed his bank account. So that can be put one in a state of vulnerability, but it can also be quite liberating. Kind of the sense I get of the novice ordination as well is it's almost like there's kind of a boundary, and you're stepping across a certain boundary. So you're going into a new mode of experience. It's really has to be experienced to be really understood. You can't really know what it's like until you actually do it. Some interesting stories coming to mind of novice ordinations in the time of the Buddha. Dabamalaputa, ordained at the age of 7, attained arhatship as they were shaving his head to become a novice. So nothing is fixed. He was, perhaps that's even where these contemplations or that origin of the novice ordination comes from, is that he was watching the hair falling on the ground and he saw just the impermanence of hair, and actually that catapulted his mind into arhatship at the age of 7. Part of us might even think like, oh, well, that's a drag. He didn't get to do all the things that we get to do in a lifetime. You know, he attained arhatship at the age of 7. So, but not quite right to think like that. Well, not at all right, actually, because arhat it's the best way to live. It's so not having any suffering, not having any attachment since the age of 7, Dabamalaputa. So he just lived as a novice till the age of 20. At the age of 20, that's the minimum age to become a bhikkhu. He ordained as a bhikkhu and then served the Sangha as for times he was the Pindabat roster monk, the Alms Round roster. For times he was the lodgings officer, so he just decided he would just serve the Sangha. Okay, we'll do the next part of the ceremony, which is the determining of the precepts. Yeah, you would hold the tray and the okasa wanda nibante.
Okasa wanda mi bhante, sabang aparadang kamatame bhante, maya katang punyang Samina anumoditabang, Samina katang punyang maihang databang, Sadhu, sadhu, anumodami, Okasa karunyang katva, Tisaranena saha silani deta me bhante. Aham bhante saranasilang yachami, dutiyampi aham bhante saranasilang yachami, tatiyampi aham bhante saranasilang yachami.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Yamahang vadami tang vadehi.
Okasa ama bhante.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Ti sarana kamanang nititang.
Okasa ama bhante.
Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Abrahmacharya veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Abrahmacharya veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Surameraya macha pamadatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Sura meraya majja pamadatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Vikala bhojana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Vikala bhojana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Nacha gita varita visukhadasana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Nacha gita vatita visukkadasana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Malaganda vilepana dharana mandana vibhusanatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Mala ganda vilepana dharana mandana vibhusanatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Uchasayana mahasayana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Uchasayana mahasayana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Jata rupa rajatapatikahana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Jata rupa rajatapati gahana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Imani dasa sikkhapadani samadhiyami.
Okasa ama bhante. Imani dasa sikkhapadani samadhiyami. Imani dasa sikkhapadani samadhiyami. Imani dasa sikkhapadani samadhiyami.
Okay, welcome to the robe. Don't worry, it only takes about 5 to 10 years before it stops falling off when you're bowing. It takes some getting used to, but you'll get there. This is, and can smell the kind of natural dye coming off of it. It's a very nice smell. And something we do here at Abhayagiri. Yeah, so that's now you've undertaken the 10 precepts of the novice, and of course the big change being the relinquishment of money. Of course, as a novice, practicalities, you don't need things offered to you yet. You can still take things on your own. You can still offer things to bhikkhus, but there is that the giving up of the assets, giving up of the money. So that can lead to a sense of vulnerability. You might feel very vulnerable, but also it can be very liberating as well. So in giving up some of the freedoms that come along with using money and being able to just go into town and buy things, and that's given up. So, but at the same time, it's a burden to buy things, and so now, having put on the brown robe, you're now dependent. You're no longer independent. You're intentionally becoming dependent on others. So my very life is sustained through the gifts of others, and you have a bowl. You have an alms bowl now, a bowl and a robe, and the alms bowl, that's your license for the bowl and robe are your license for going alms round. So that whole world is open to you now at this point, but it takes that relinquishment of the money to get that license to be able to do that. So I remember walking Tudong, and somebody was wondering why the CHP hadn't pulled us over, because it says pedestrians prohibited. You're not supposed to walk on the freeway. But we were walking on the freeway. CHP was passing us. Nobody was coming over because somebody asked us, "Well, what's your license? Where's your license to do that?" I said, "Well, the bowl and robes. That's the license. You can't just do it without that. But once you have that license, you're undertaking a practice. You're doing something out of the ordinary. It's not just some guy stumbling from one town to another. It's the walking practice. It's actually taken on as a practice. Oh, these guys are actually doing something. They're practicing something. So the alms round is that as well. It's a practice, and it's a very, very central key part of the holy life is the alms round, and the way we depend on the alms round, and that's the right livelihood for monastics is the alms round, and we don't seek, say, the foods we like or that we think we need, but the alms round is just that. The purity of alms food is food freely given. So food freely given is then that's the food we eat, and that's pure alms food. So we do that every day too. The buffet table is a miniature alms round, but then we also do it each week. You'll get that experience of going in each week and into either Ukiah, Redwood Valley, Fry Vineyards, Tomkai Road, those alms rounds that we do, and so just gaining that experience, but also learning about dependence or interdependence, because those of us who wear the robes, we're dependent on people for our life, for our very life is sustained through the gifts of others, but at the same time, people depend on us for spiritual inspiration and thinking, oh, there's these guys in Redwood Valley who are actually celibate and living the holy life, actually living by these precepts, and actually doing it and being very transparent about it and actually practicing it. So it's not a small thing, and also not to belittle that or to think that's not that big of a deal, because it is a big deal. Not to get puffed up about it as well, but or really not getting too conceited about it, but then also recognizing it is actually a good thing, a good service for the world. So next part of the ceremony is the taking of dependence, and the taking of dependence is the act of taking dependence on myself as a acharya, as a teacher, but also taking dependence on the sangha, taking dependence on the other ajahns, Ajahn Kasapo, sure he'll be teaching you quite a bit. And Ajahn Chunda and Ajahn Tita Panyo and the Sangha is just kind of a brotherhood of people who we're all helping each other here. We all try to lead each other by example, set a good example for each other. And that's that we chanted earlier, could my spiritual companions find fault with my conduct? So being able to humble ourselves, lower ourselves, this is one of the most difficult things about the holy life, is actually learning how to be humble. And I still get embarrassed sometimes thinking of how I conducted myself as an Anagarika and as a novice, as a junior monk, when Ajahn Sudanto was the work monk here, and how I didn't want to do what he was telling me to do, and I was less than respectful toward him, but I've since apologized for that. But just that ability to, and later I was able to lower myself, but I wasn't able to at first because I was just like, but he's telling me to do it in a way that doesn't make any sense, and I know the right way to do it. So, but that ability to humble and lower oneself, and it's very much less suffering if we can do that, because we can really suffer a lot over being right. But being right isn't liberation. but humility and being humble, that being true, that's more what it's about. So yeah, we could move into the taking of dependence, and start with the come back up onto your haunches and start with the Namo.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Acharyo me bhante hohi, ayasmato nisaya vachami. Acharyo me bhante hohi, ayasmato nisaya vachami. Acharyo me bhante hohi, ayasmato nisaya vachami.
Opaikang,
Sadhu bhante,
patirupang,
sadhu bhante,
pasadikena sampadehi.
sadhu bhante. Ajatage dhani tero, mayhang bharo, ahampi terasa bharo. Ajatage dhani tero, mayhang bharo, ahampi terasa bharo. Ajatage dhani tero, mayhang bharo, ahampi terasa bharo.
Okay, you can sit in puppy up again. And so that really completes the novice ordination ceremony, the Acharyo me bhante hohi, ayasmato nisayo vachami. That means, Venerable Sir, please be my teacher. May I take dependence on you. And then I say, Opaikang, it is well. Patirupang, it is nice. Pasadikena sampadehi, it is proper. Those are rough translations but essentially, yes, okay, I accept. And then ajatage dani tero, maihang baro, ahampi terasa baro. That's from this day forward, I am the burden of the elder, the Tera, myself, and the Tera is a burden of mine. So this mutual, yes, I'm willing to give guidance, training, and also the Pūjā, the one gone forth, the novice is willing to take on the burden of whatever, helping out in various ways. So and you've already been doing that as an Anagarika as well. So this is also that link. I know that Luangpur Liam takes the Nisaya very seriously. When you take Nisaya on Luangpur Liam, he makes sure to. That's when he gives you attention. That's when he really you have that really strong link with him. So then it's mutual too. There's mutual learning. Even as somebody who's been here for over 20 years, I have a lot to learn, and so we all learn from each other, and I can share my experience, and then you also have a fresh perspective. So that's helpful for me as well. It's always helpful to have new people coming in and with a fresh perspective, and so there's that mutual helping out. And your new name, and I'll talk. You can look at it if you want. It's not blank. It's
okay.
Well, it's actually, yeah, it's kind of messed up actually, but it's on the other side there. So your new name is Tejasaro.
Tejasaro.
And that translation is a free translation that I translated it as wellspring of spiritual strength. It was actually quite difficult to translate, but I really like the word Teja. For you said your mother needs something short, so she can say Teja. She doesn't have to say Tejasaro. She can just call you Teja.
Thank you.
Or even Te if she wants, if one syllable. I know that Ajahn Teja Panyo, the Ajahn Dan student, Ajahn Dan calls him Te. He just says Te, and he comes in. He's the Upatak. But Teja, the common meaning is fire, but it has many other meanings. So it can mean piercing, penetrating. But in this name, it has another meaning, which is radiance, like the radiance that would come off of a fire. Radiance, light. One of the meanings was effulgence in the dictionary. Or it could mean just brightness. But it also means power, strength, in terms of spiritual strength and spiritual power. Sara means like flow or flowing, but it also means lake. But usually when it means lake, it's before the word. And so, but it can also mean to pass through, to go through. And so I thought, well, it's like flowing strength, flowing power. So I thought wellspring of spiritual strength seemed like a nice translation for that one, but you can also come up with your own translations if you want. So yeah, welcome to your new robe, your new name, and I won't go on for too long. I'll leave it there. Yeah. So maybe if at this point you could bow and then go to your seat there. Once you're there, we can do closing chant.
Do the closing chant, page 75, the verses on a shining night of prosperity.
mind. The future is unrealized. Pachupanam chayo dhammam tata tata vipassati asamhiram asankupam tam vidhalmanugrohaye. In every presently arisen state, there just there one barely sees, unmoved, unagitated. Such insight is one strength. Ajevaki chamatapam kojanya maranam sule nanino sangarantena mahasenena machuna. Ardently doing one's task today, tomorrow who knows death may come. Facing the mighty hordes of death, indeed one cannot strike a deal. Evam viharinatatim ahoratam atanditam tam vebade karatoti santo achikate muni. To dwell with energy aroused, thus for a night of non-decline, that is a night of shining prosperity. So it was taught by the peaceful sage. Blessed One, I render homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One.
The teaching
so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma.
The Blessed One's disciples
who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha.